Welcome to the newest episode of the Life in Knit podcast. My name is Rachel. My Instagram name is _lifeinknit, and my Ravelry ID is Rachel1137. I am officially back from vacation. Sorry, I totally failed at getting anything uploaded while I was gone. I will throw some fun pictures and whatnot in at the end so you can see kind of what we got up to a little bit, especially the ones that are a little bit more appropriate, because I did pop into 2 different yarn stores while we were there, and you'll see a little bit of spoils from one of them later on in this episode. So thank you again for joining. Today is October 29th, so almost the end of October. We did get a tiny bit of snow today, but it's already almost gone, so that didn't last for very long. I do have a couple of new projects, progress on old ones, and I do have a finish, which is always exciting. Colors on it are not totally accurate because it is still soaking wet. I'm wearing my Salem sweater from Dragon Horde Designs today. My favorite thing is the sleeve detail, as per usual. She does some really great sleeve details. I actually made a pair of socks and did this detail down the front of the foot too, because it's a really nice little cable and bobble pattern. So this is the Salem sweater, Dragon Horde Designs. I did a test knit on this one. I think this might have been the first test knit that I did for her, actually, which is pretty cool. It's been out for a while now, but it is a super wonderful pattern. This knit with either sport yarn, or you can get it with DK as well, or fingering weight held with something fluffy. So I did the second option, of course. I did fingering weight and mohair with this one. Mohair is not my favorite fiber in general, but this one is better than a lot of them. I hadn't found Sorry when I found this one. That's how old it is. But I still really love the sweater, and the glow of the mohair with the silk is no joke. So I will absolutely still wear it and still love it. It is the from Sea Turtle, or Fool's Gold on her snapper fingering, which is a cashmere blend, so merino cashmere and nylon, held with the Yarn Ink Cloud Lace in Canyon, which is a really nice gold. They blend together so nicely that you can't even really see which is which to hold them separate, which is nice, and the two together made a really pretty fabric. I'd actually bought the cloud lace to go with something different and didn't like how it looked, because it went with like a chocolate brown, and they did not work well together at all. It looked kind of like baby poop-ish color, where it is not good. So I got to use it for this one instead. And there are 11 sizes in this sweater. Tristan is really, really good for making sure that everything is size inclusive. The size range goes from 43 inches to 79 inches, and it is meant to be an oversized sweater, so you can see how much positive ease is in that one. Super nice and comfy. It doesn't normally ride up like this, but this baby definitely needs a bath. So normally it hangs and sits more like this, rather than bunching up a little like it is right now. But also sitting down in it, like all scrunched up against a shelf, doesn't really help. But it's so comfy and cozy that on a day like today, I definitely had to. It's chilly here, even though the snow has gone away. It is still on the colder side, so comfy and cozy is where it's at today. I did size 5 in this one, which I believe is like the 54-inch-ish range. Finishes. So I did finish my Hocus Pocus 2 socks. I have the ugliest sock blockers in the world, but as I said, they are still wet, so they do have to stay on the blockers. So it's the Hocus Pocus 2 colorway from Polka Dot Creek on their self-striping. It's Cauldron as the contrast that comes with it. So you can see that even though I did not do a contrast toe or cuff, still made it through the sock with no problem. And I don't have the smallest feet, but I don't have the biggest feet either, and there is still, I think it was like 12 grams left of the 50 gram skein, so it goes so much further than you think it will. Two socks. They're still soaking wet because I decided to toss them on in the sink today, not thinking that, hey, maybe wait. But yeah, so those are all done, which is so exciting. I got a lot of work on those done while I was on my trip. So that was one of the 2 projects I brought with me, so I did get a decent amount of work done on that on times like trains and whatnot. Well, it's a bit of a pain in the keister to bring out something bigger. Speaking of what I brought on the trip, the other thing I brought was my Lace and Fade Boxy by Hocus. So this one has 10 sizes in it, ranging from 30 inches to 66 inches at the bust. That one again is meant to be a pretty oversized sweater, and I think I'm doing size 4 this time. I am not feeding it again. Like I said, it's my second time making this sweater because I did test it as well. Yes, I do have a problem and test everything. But this one is currently not even attached to yarn. Still on the needles, but not currently attached to yarn because I just finished the first skein. You should always alternate skeins of yarn with hand-dyed. But this one's pretty very good, and Marissa Fancy Fibers is really good for consistency from skein to skein, so I'm being bad this one and I'm not alternating skeins. Yeah, so this is my Lace and Fade Boxy. All the yarn is from Marissa Fantasy Fibers, so it is her Love Me Some Pie on her Enemies to Lovers Fingering, and then Harbinger, this beautiful black on Surrey. It's really pretty lace pattern there. You can kind of see it there, which is super fun in the black. So I have split 4 sleeves and finished the second stripe of the Surrey, and then ran out of the first skein of yarn, so I'm going to go back and pick up my neckband and finish that off before heading into the next colorway, and then go from there. When I've got something that's like this much wide depth of stockinette, I do like to try to break it up a little bit, so when I start getting bored, I do something that's going to be a little bit smaller. So I'll do the collar this time, and then probably after I finish the next Surrey band, I'll do one of the sleeves, and then go back into the stockinette, just to keep it a little bit more interesting, and then when you're done, which is nice. So it does look enormous, but it is a drop shoulder, so the body runs to about here, and then the sleeves are just like that long. So they go super fast too, which is nice. I'm loving how this is coming out so far. It was so hard on the trip because it was like the whole time like, this would be the perfect layering piece to have with me right now because it was warm but windy, so it would have been perfect, and not having it almost killed me. So I got a little bit more motivation to do it, and I got a lot done on the plains mostly, and then a little bit here and there at nighttime when we were hanging out in our hotel room. That one is back into the bag from the LB tree, my giant custom-made project bag. I did have it in one of my Shirley Bryan yarn bags for the trip, just because it goes squish really easy, so it takes up like no room, which is great because we did carry on and even managed to stay just carry on the way back, which is fantastic. It's a custom sweater bag that I did for her, so I designed the whole thing from top to bottom, and you can do it too. So definitely go check out her site. Her custom bags are phenomenal. There's another one coming up after pretty quick here. And so other works in progress, I did a little bit more on my Root Cellar socks, so it is part of the Homestead Socks collection by Northwood Knit Co. Again, the first full one is hanging out at Polka Dot Creek because I was gone for a couple of weeks, so I figured it wasn't coming with me, so it could live there. I realized belatedly that I'm doing the wrong size in the second sock, so I think I'm gonna have enough yarn to do 3 socks. I think this one will probably stay as a sample at Polka Dot Creek, and then I will do a matching second sock to my first sock when it's done. So just finished the heel flap and starting down the gusset, decreasing the gusset stitches. So this like cable pattern is so fun. and it's so easy, which is really great too. Again, the yarn is from Polka Dot Creek. This is the classic DK, which does have nylon in it, so it's really good for socks or Christmas stockings, because all the Christmas yarn is out now. So it's whiskey, one of the newer colorways, and then crunchy leaves as the contrast there. So this one is on the fingering weight, just held double, just because I didn't want to get a full skein, and so I just got a couple minis, because it's plenty, even for 3 socks. If I was just doing the 1 mini probably would have been enough, because I still have like that much left for the toe. Probably be cutting it pretty close, but I'd probably make it. I bought 2 because I prefer extra, not enough, every single time. Yeah, Root Cellar socks. The pattern is live now, so you can go grab your own copy, and it does come with all 3, and they're all super pretty. So definitely go check it out. That one is in a bag from Fate's Thread that I got from Fantasy Fibers New Year's Eve box last year. So the Crescent City collection. Cute little bag. And then next is another test knit. This is a secret test knit, but there's not much on it yet, so I'm gonna kind of show because it's for a secret test knit for Lindry Knits. It is a sock. She does mostly socks, but this is all that's there yet, so it doesn't spoil anything. This is more Polka Dot Creek yarn. I know you're all shocked. This is an older one again, though, so an older sock set, one of the Christmas yarns. So it's the mistletoe sock set. So mistletoe, and then with burgundy, and I believe it's forest as the contrast. Does it in there? Of course not. It'd be far too helpful. So the full skein and then the 2 minis. So yeah, fun to see what that one turns into. I think we're allowed to show it in the next week or so. So as soon as I can, I will. And that one's in a bag. Little Marauders Map bag from I don't remember who that one's from. I have a terrible brain. I got that one. I did get as a custom bag as well, I believe. Just don't remember who off the top of my head at the moment. And then the last of my new ones is barely started, but it's another bag from the LB tree. Another custom bag I got from her. It's just a smaller one, so it's a smaller version of the bigger one, so it's still the nice little drawstring top that cinches in and kind of smushes down, so it's not as obvious what it is. And then a really fun handle on that guy as well. Again, she does all of the pockets, which is great. So there's the giant one, and then there's the zippered one, and then pockets inside too. Her bags are fantastic. That's why I've got so many. So this one is a test knit of the Regalia sweater for Xanarty Knits. There's 9 sizes in this one, from 36 3/4 inches to 68 inches. I'm doing size 5, or I will be doing size 5 because I haven't classed on yet. I am done my first swatch. So it is a colorwork and fancy yoke sweater. It's so pretty. I'll add a picture from her post for it at the end because it is beautiful. Yeah, just did a swatch for it. This is not the color I'm going to use, but I'm looking at trying to use the Fantasy Fibers Enemies to Lover base because I have a lot of it. It does call for sport, but I can usually make it work with fingering weight, although it doesn't seem like I can do that this time. I thought it worked out okay swatch-wise. I think the gauge that I checked was the same as the gauge on my Lace and Fade Boxy. So I might measure again and take a look at what I'm doing with that one, because I like the fabric it's making and I like that fabric, so if I can make it work, that would be great. Yeah, so this one is an Outlier 39, and then that's leftovers of River Crossing from Fantasy Fibers. But I'm planning on using the Outlier 39 in this game and Meadowgrass. So, like, how pretty is that going to be? So it's like neck and then the yoke and then back into the body of the sweater. So that is my hope to be able to use. Yeah, I don't have a color scheme at all. To be able to use those guys. And yeah, we'll see if I can make a gauge work. I'm absolutely going to be doing that. Otherwise, I do have some other options for actual sport weight yarn that I could use. Yeah. Oh yeah. Outliers is like the oops skeins that Marissa does, and she releases them every once in a while. They're usually just a tiny bit different from her intended colorways because she is a complete and total perfectionist and will not rest if anything is not completely perfect in her mind. But they're still beautiful colors, and I buy a lot of them. But yeah, super fun. So yeah, hoping to be able to make that one work, and I'll figure it out from there. Purchases wise, and for purchases, I did pick up some yarn over here in Paris. I did hold off at the first yarn store that we popped into in Rome, just because we were still doing one less bag at that point, because my husband just brought one bag there and packed one inside of his bag to be a little sneakier, so that gave us a lot more room on the way back. So I held off in the first one, but when we got to Paris, it was our last day, and I couldn't say no. So we went to the Little Weasel yarn store in Paris. It is the cutest little store in one of the covered passageway malls, and it's absolutely adorable. So it runs on both sides. So I've got more of the commercial dyed yarn on one side, and then the other side is more like fabric and cross stitch and all the hand dyed yarn. They clocked me so fast when I walked in. I walked in wearing my hideaway cardigan with made with yarn from Fantasy Fibers, and I started looking at some of the commercial yarn, and within like 30 seconds, one of the girls who worked there came up. She's like, "Do you know we have like hand-dyed yarn on the other side?" I did not know. I will go check there. So, yeah, she picked me out real quick. And I did find some yarn, unsurprisingly to anyone. So I had to pick up one of the yarns because they do dye their own yarn line. So it's a Little Weasel yarn, the rainbow. I don't know if it's going to be gradient or self-striping or what, but it is beautiful. It's a Halloween colorway. It's called Trick or Treat, but doesn't look too Halloween-y. So really nice, like speckles in there, oranges and creams and pinks. It's just beautiful. And how can you not get yarn from the store when you have the opportunity when you're in there? I also managed to grab some Life in the Long Grass. I've eyed up their yarn for ages, but never found any because it is a European yarn, so we don't really get a lot of it here. So Life in the Long Grass, I have completely destroyed from packing the label on this one, so don't mind me. The colorway is Elation. It's like pinks to purples, just bright and fun. There's sock base as well, so I'm gonna buy one skein of something. I'm gonna make sure it's a sock. And then I couldn't help myself and grabbed a sweater quantity from La Bien-Aimée. Her yarn is so pretty. I've got a little bit of it, not a lot though. I think I've got 2 skeins on DK and a random single skein of single ply that I actually got from Yarnaceous Fibers from the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted prompt on Instagram. Said I wanted to try some of her yarn because I'd never had. And then they had so much of it at Little Weasel, so I grabbed a sweater quantity on, again, the sock base, because sock bases are just not just for socks, people. I love it for sweaters because they last so much better than your typical yarn, which is great. Colorway is Santoki, Tokki. Yeah. Like the gray and a little bit of rust to it. It's just unbelievably pretty. So very excited to eventually work with this because, let's be honest, the amount of yarn I have is getting to be a little bit outrageous. I need to work on slowing down a little bit more. But yeah, and it came in this super cute little bag. Yeah, that's all I grabbed when I was there, so I'd say I did pretty good. I did also pick up my October monthly yarn from Marissa. Well, I didn't pick it up. She brought it to me when she picked stuff at the airport, which is super sweet. So yeah, spoiler if you haven't seen it, everyone should have theirs by now. She's shipped it out a while ago. I was just really slow on the uptake on getting mine because I didn't pick it up before we left. So it is Daddy Drops this month. So Witcher, it's really nice, variegated dark green, a little bit of like blue and creamy speckles, and then Witcher Progress Keeper does have a little bit of sparkle to it as well. All resiny, and then this really nice dark teal. It's so good. It's kind of like if Constellation, or if Zodiac and Envy had a baby. It's beautiful. Yeah, as per usual, the two look so good together. And then, like, come on, if you go, like, compared to the last couple ones, if you go, like, I'm gonna have so much fun with this. Like, come on. It'll be fantastic. I'm excited for that sweater, too. It's not even started yet, but it's gonna be incredible. At this point, I don't know how long it's gonna be, because I don't know how I'm gonna cut out any of them, but we'll see. Definitely gonna have enough yarn for, like, 2 or 3 sweaters at the end of the year. Never mind all the other yarn I have from Marissa's. But, yeah, so that's all my purchases. And all of the knitting stuff. I do, of course, did have a lot going on in my life over the last 2 weeks. We just got back on Sunday. So we had 2 weeks in Europe. We left on the 14th. Left on the 13th, got there on the 14th, and then had left Europe and got here back on the 27th, because we had 9 hours in the air, but from the time we landed at like 5:30 our time here, so not too bad, which is great. But trying to stay up those last couple hours was really, really tough, but made it, slowly trying to reacclimate to local time again, which is interesting for sure. Sorry, I'm still all congested from the plane. Planes just completely destroy my immune system, it seems, so I wind up with like a little bit of a cold every single time without fail. Yeah, on the 14th, we arrived in Rome, so we got there relatively early, but I didn't plan too much for the first night because I knew we'd be pretty exhausted. So we got all checked into our little room. I'm pretty good for trying to book close-ish to somewhere transit central. It just makes things so much easier in the long term and with going out and about every day. So we were like 150 meters away from a train station, which is fantastic. So just outside of like Vatican City, which is really great. We did dinner the first night at a rooftop restaurant that was stunning. I was really ridiculous and booked a reservation for shortly before sunset. So the sun was like out and beautiful when we got there, and then before the meal was over, it was set, and it was stunning. Just watching the sunset over Rome the first night was great. And then after dinner, we just wandered around a little bit. So we wandered down towards like the Trevi Fountain because we weren't too far away. It was totally different than it is most years, because they do have a lot of things under construction right now for their big event that starts in December with the Vatican. So with the Holy City being there, it's pretty centered on that. So the Trevi Fountain is currently drained and has a big fence around it for construction because they're doing a lot of work on it, but it was still beautiful, and being able to be downtown Rome was so cool. So we just wandered around, got a spritz to go because you could do that there, which is great, and just wandered and enjoyed ourselves for a couple hours, and then went back to the hotel room and just completely crashed. Our first full day in Rome was the 15th. Pretty sure Mark nearly killed me that day because I made him walk a lot. So we did a super early visit at the Vatican museums. Luckily it was pretty close to our hotel room, which is why I had planned it there. So it was only about a 5-minute walk, so just grab breakfast, this cute little place not too far away. We wound up going back there every day that we were in Rome and brought home some coffee because the coffee and pastries were so good. And then, Vatican Museum, which was gorgeous, but so busy. I cannot believe how busy it was there. And it was just like wall-to-wall people in mid-October, so I can only imagine how awful it is in the summertime. It's so hot because it's still, I think, like 28 degrees that day. Just wicked warm the whole time and just packed with people. So just didn't really get a chance to stop and really look at anything that you wanted to because people were just pulling you along. But it was still really great to see. We got to see the Sistine Chapel, which, not gonna lie, was the biggest reason we went. And just kind of get to see everything there. And then went straight from there to the Colosseum. We stopped, didn't even get time to stop for lunch in between. We had planned to, but we ran out of time so fast. And the Colosseum was incredible. Just being able to see everything and wander around and check out everything that was older than our country by far. Just having the chance to be able to do that was so cool. And we just got the normal passes. We weren't able to get the ones to go down to the floor or anything like that, unfortunately. But yeah, so we spent some time wandering around there and then went across to go see the Roman Forum in Palatine Hill. And then, it was a big day walking wise, doing all of those at once. At that point, we were starving, so we just walked a couple blocks away and found the first little pizza shop that looked good. I followed the typical tourist ways of just making sure that you're a couple blocks away from all the big attractions, and if someone's trying to pull you in for food, it's probably not very good. So if it has food on display or someone trying to pull you on in, it's probably not going to be pretty good. It served us pretty good our whole trip, which was great. And then we had 2 reservations booked for that evening. So I had one for cocktails at another rooftop bar, because I have no self-control when it comes to that, and it's a great way to get to see a little bit of the city. And then our first Michelin star restaurant of the trip went to Armandel Pantheon, which is right by the Pantheon. Shocker. We had a couple hours in between the two to be able to wander a little bit and just enjoy ourselves and see the city a little bit more. Seeing the Pantheon at night with not a lot of people by it was incredible. We did a lot of wandering towards the bigger sites at nighttime, so you could see them both at night and during the day, because it's a lot less crowded at nighttime, so being able to see it at night is a whole different kind of special. And more wandering after we walked home from Pantheon, just because the metro stopped running at 11:30 at night in Rome, which I didn't know. But it was like an hour-ish walk back to the hotel room, so not that big of a deal when you've already been walking for 12 hours all day. We just did it a little slower, and we did walk past the Vatican City that night as well, so we got some really beautiful shots of that later at night, which is cool. Had another day of a lot more chill day walking around Rome the next day and just enjoying ourselves. We found a couple jackets there, which is really cool. So we each bought a leather jacket for each other for an anniversary present. Then from there I went to Florence. Really enjoyed the beauty of the city with the churches and everything. And the wine windows, of course. But overall, it wasn't my favorite city that we visited. I was really surprised by that one. It was pretty dirty in general, and just not my favorite overall. Our bed and breakfast that we stayed at was half an hour transit outside of town, and that was incredible. I'll definitely put some pictures in of that one. It was stunning. The whole front was all lime trees, and you could smell it when you walked up, and it was just breathtaking. And the inside was gorgeous too. And so just checked out that one. We've arrived in Florence in the middle of a wicked downpour. So we canceled reservations for our first night, which was a bit of a bummer, but I was not willing to train half an hour into town in the pouring rain. And after a long travel day, my husband does not do travel days very well, so I was not up for that in any way, shape, or form. So we just chilled a little bit and went to dinner at a place a lot closer to the bed and breakfast, which turned out fantastic. We got a Florentine steak there, and it was really good. That was probably my favorite meal in Florence, actually. It was fantastic overall, and not super inaffordable, and the owners were the ones taking care of us, and were so nice and so sweet the whole time, which is incredible. After Florence was Venice. We love Venice. Our first day was spent island hopping just outside us. There's Burano, which is like the linen and lace making island. I got a couple of beautiful shawls there. My husband got a hand-tailored linen jacket, which is probably his pride possession right now. And then Murano is the glass blowers island. We didn't bring a ton back from there because it's dangerous. We got a couple little things that made it just fine, which is great. A couple little glasses, like stemless glasses, because I didn't trust anything bigger than that. And yeah, it was really, really cool to be able to see both and just get away from the hustle and bustle a little bit, because the islands are a lot calmer, which is great. And checked out Trattoria Gatto Nero on Burano for lunch, which was incredible. Another Michelin star restaurant. I booked a few of them on the trip, because it's cool to be able to check it out, because we don't have any here, because Michelin has never been to Calgary. And the food was incredible, and the whole island was just beautiful. So just wandering around the islands for a while was so much fun. And spent the second day in and around the city. I did a little walking tour, and just really good at just wandering around, and much to my husband's chagrin, spend a lot of the time just finding really cool sites and just making sure we see the stuff that we really want to see and find things that are pretty interesting outside of that. We found on our third day there one of the best little restaurants that was 250 meters away from our little hotel there, and found it randomly on Google as like the best rated restaurant nearby. That was 4.9 stars and deserved every single iota of it. It's a little family run farm to table restaurant. It was incredible food. Probably my favorite meal of the trip, even more so than Michelin star restaurants. It was incredible. We had a lot of great meals the whole time. So not knocking the other ones, but the food there was impeccable from start to finish. And then went to Paris after Florence. I spent 5 days there. I got sick for one of them, so it was a bit of a write-off. But we still enjoyed ourselves the whole time regardless, and got to see a couple of things we hadn't seen. We made it out to Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre this time, and doing the switch from Italian to French was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because they're just close enough that it completely messed with my brain the whole time. So the first day I was making mistakes every time I turned around, and I felt so bad. People were looking at me like I was a complete idiot. I think I got more issues from mixing up French and Italian than I did from not having fluent French in general. So my French is not great, but passable. So like I can carry on conversations ish, especially if I'm in a restaurant. If I'm in a restaurant, I'm fine. It's just the day-to-day conversations, probably not so much. Yeah, we had a wonderful time in there, and really got to enjoy ourselves a lot more and walk around and do the things we wanted to do a little bit more. Had another great meal at this tiny little restaurant that was run by a family again. Family-run restaurants are always the best. Like, none of the rooftop restaurants were my favorite meals the entire time. It was great to be able to see a lot of the things, and being able to see the sights from up high is really cool way to orienting yourself in the city, and just like the views are incredible, so it's really nice to be able to do it, but the food's never incredible. So I think next time I'll probably would still check out some more of the rooftop restaurants, but probably do more like I did in Rome, and do more of like the cocktails rather than the meals. Our last night in Paris, we actually did what's called the Roof Paris, and that was probably the best food out of the rooftop restaurants. A little more like Japanese inspired food. It was really good. But yeah, it was more loungy rather than like a real restaurant, but really good overall. So, but yeah, that was about the trip. I'll definitely put some pictures in at the end, because who doesn't love pictures from travel? Yeah, that's about it. We'll see you next week, because I will get back on the weekly podcast, I promise. Yeah. Thank you again. We will see you next week, and until then, happy knitting. Bye.